All right, everyone. We are back for episode 48 of Stub Love Live. Man, we're excited. I'm excited. I got Connor Shapiro on. I see Connor is joining, so let me get him in. Ticket Craze on IG.
Howard, I figured if we're going to look at some fire tickets, you got to have sunglasses on.
Ah, man, you're great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I have a little bit of an eye injury going on, and yeah, you can take them off, Connor. Yeah, it's looking kind of gnarly tonight, and I just feel like it would be better if the audience didn't have to see it. So I'm gonna go in shades tonight, and Connor did it in kind of solidarity
Well,
with me.
frankly, I have an 18-year-old or 18-day son at home, so, I probably got some bags too.
Well, congratulations. When you told me about that, I remember some of those days. So for you to have a wife that's going to let you sneak away with an 18-day-old baby at home, man, you got to bow down to that. That's
Yep,
phenomenal.
yep, for
Yeah.
sure.
So this is episode 48. We got a lot of people in the house that are, big time ticket collectors. I have to tell you, Connor, first and foremost, you're one of the young guys in the hobby, and we prepped a little bit for the show like we always do, and you're getting all kinds of congratulations from everybody. Everyone's all happy about you having a son. But you're one of the young guys in the ticket hobby. Why don't we start with that? What are your thoughts on the future of tickets and how we can maybe generate a younger audience to come into ticket collecting with us?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it made sense. I had done coins, I had done Pokemon, I had done vintage baseball, and then, when I saw tickets, I was like, this is maybe the collectible in terms of it's this perfect storm of rarity. It's the chase. It just culminates everything I love about collecting, and so I would love to have more young people coming in and joining the hobby. All the guys were great. I was at the National last year. Can't say enough great things. Um, and I'm thinking all the time about how I can bring more people in. I
Yeah,
got my buddy Sean who came with me last year. He's coming again. My 18-day son, he's going to be a ticket collector. So we got two more.
that's great. It's kind of funny. You talk about it with people who don't collect tickets. You talk about it with a lot of card collectors. You talk about it with a lot of memorabilia collectors. And once you start to give them some insight into tickets, everyone always says, it's really cool, it's really awesome. But then when I go to the National, or I see who watches this show, most of the time it's dudes that are in their 40s and 50s, and it's not young guys like yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess we'll all have to keep doing a better job of that. But yeah, I mean, I do see some young people every so often here and there at the National. I've talked to a few young guys, and they like it too. But I kind of wanted to start there with you. So tell me, how did you start getting into ticket collecting? I know you were a card guy, and so how did you make that transition?
Yeah. So in 2015, I ended up going to uh, Belmont Stakes, which was first Triple Crown in 37 years with American Pharoah. And I kept my admission ticket and I kept my $2 uncashed win ticket. And then I got home and I started looking up some of these Kentucky Derby tickets. I looked up Secretariat. I looked up, and it kind of evolved from there. And then when I got to 2017, 2018, really went into vintage baseball, and that's where I kind of started. 2018, I kind of had the thought, I'm looking at the Lou Gehrig signed ticket that sold for 95,000 at the time. The unsigned was going for 25,000, and I thought, wow, that's an insane premium for a signature. So I said, who's the greatest player that's living that's still signing? And Willie Mays wasn't signing, But other than that, I said it has to be Hank Aaron for me. So at the time, he was charging $325 for a card, $375 for an autograph on a ticket, and I started sending away tickets. And but even back in 2018, some of these were not that easy to find.
Yeah. So let's take it back a step. So you go to the Belmont Stakes, you watch American Pharoah win the Triple Crown, which I'm sure is pretty dynamite.
It was an insane sporting event. Probably one of the yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see that. I guess anyone would love to see that.
The one thing about that I will say is there's something about 90,000 people cheering for the same outcome.
Right.
Because every other sporting event is split. So you literally had 100,000 people who were all cheering for the same thing.
Right. Well, that's really cool. I've been to some races down here. We have some racetracks locally, and I love to take my kids there. And we gamble a little bit, and we bet on the horses that have funny names or whatever kind of floats our boat. But to see the Belmont where some horse has the chance to win a Triple Crown, that's amazing. So you go ahead, you go to the Belmont, you start to look up tickets, you get into horse racing tickets, and we'll talk about that as we move in.
Yep.
And then at some point, you're a baseball fan, you're a big Yankee fan. You start to think about, well, I think I need to get into vintage tickets of vintage baseball players. And back in 2017, 2018, Connor, how easy was it to acquire, either the bigger moments or the bigger debuts from the vintage baseball players, Hall of Famers and the like?
I still don't remember it being that easy. I think there was a fair amount of luck involved, frankly, because even if you were looking for unsigned tickets, I struggled to find some of them, and all of a sudden, there was one opportunity I had to get one signed, and I happened to find it, sent it in, and the stars aligned basically.
So back in the day when you were searching for these tickets, 2017, 18, were you exclusively chasing them on eBay, or were you going through other sources?
Early on, I was only really buying from eBay. I've bought from all the auction houses now, but it's always been mostly eBay.
So you go ahead, you start to acquire some of these vintage tickets. So what were the big ones that you got that were unsigned? And then we'll kind of talk about the process of how you got them signed and maybe the insight into that.
Yeah. So I picked up, like a Koufax first no-hitter early on. I picked up one of the first Hank Aaron's was a first hit. Then I was lucky enough to find his debut early on. And then, I kind of had an idea in my mind, which is I wanted all the major milestones. And I've kind of gone that way with my collection as well, which is I like numerical milestones. I like first, last. So I was looking for 500 home run, 600 home run, 700. Obviously his 714, 715. It kind of just evolved from there.
So I got to be honest with you, Connor. I mean, a young guy like you, I don't know. How old are you right now?
I'm 32.
So you're 32 in 2025, 2017, 18. You're in your mid 20s. Yep. How do you have the thought, the insight in your mind to say, hey, you know what? I'm in this, I think, pretty early, and this is going to explode. What attracted you to it? Because I mean, I'm pretty impressed with that.
So, when I was really young, 5 years old, I remember looking at my dad's, vintage baseball cards, coins, and went from coins to vintage baseball to, got into Pokemon, which, of course, nobody cares about that, but part of my childhood. And then, so when I got to tickets, basically, it was
same stuff.
Yeah. So I kind of had experience in the market, and basically with cards, right? It was always funny. It's a grading scale of 10, right? And it's people argue about, oh, it should have been a 9, 9, 10. With coins, it's a scale of 70, and the difference between a 64 and a 65 can be thousands of dollars. If you operate in the coin market, frankly, way more sophisticated, way harder to figure out what things are grading. You have clean coins. Not to get into too much of that, but it's just a very hard market to operate in, and I got experience there, and I do think some of that translated.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess if you started, the way I started, I got into vintage cards. My grandmother and my mom both said to me, if you're going to go buy cards, go chase Willie Mays,
Yep.
go chase Babe Ruth, go chase Hank Aaron, go chase Lou Gehrig. Forget about these new cards. Go get the
Yep.
best. So if your parents were telling you the same, your dad's telling you the same, of course it kind of translates into, let me go do the same thing in memorabilia, in tickets, in anything that I get in.
Yep.
So, Brian Shields says, Shields collects. I'm sad I missed the explanation about the glasses. It's not a sexy explanation, Brian. Sorry. And you missed Connor and his glasses too. But I had a little bit of an issue with my left eye, and it's gotten kind of ugly today, and I'm getting it treated. So I didn't want to expose you all to the gnarliness of my eye. So you go ahead and you have this foresight into, I'm going to pick up all of these Aaron tickets. I'm going to also try to pick up, and I think you said you picked up like every single issued Aaron card. Is that true too?
Yeah, so I'm still working on it. I'm up to 70 individual signed Hank Aaron cards from 1954 to 1976, his playing years, and I'm looking for a few more. There's a few that are very hard to get. Of course, I wish it was pre-2021 now, because I would just buy them ungraded now and I'd be able to finish it. But hey, it's part of the fun, part of the chase.
Yeah. So you go ahead, you buy some of these Aaron tickets. So you get Hank's debut, you get his first hit. Maybe 3,000 hit, 500 home run, 600 home run, 700
Yep.
home run, 714, 715. I don't know if you have 755. That's a toughie.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great ticket. Not common, very, very rare. Whenever they come up for sale, they go for a big premium. So what kind of triggers you to say, okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to send them in to get signed? And then who did you send them to?
Yep.
What was the cost? And in 2017, 18, 19, 20, was there a premium that this company was charging to get tickets signed by Hank Aaron back then? So
Yep.
lots of questions, sorry.
Yeah. So saw Waukesha Sports Cards in Wisconsin. They were exclusive with Hank Aaron, $325 for a card, $375 for a ticket, and they were great to work with. So basically, I was just sending a few at a time. I probably sent maybe four rounds. Frankly, I had a fifth round that was ready to go when he passed away, suddenly in 2021, and but very thankful that I was able to get him to sign what I could.
So I'm assuming that a flat was less than $325 or whatever you paid for the ticket when you would send those into Waukesha.
So flats were $375, I
Okay.
believe. Yeah.
So a ticket was a flat.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So no premium associated to a ticket. It was just the general flat.
And at the time, I'm like, for Hank Aaron, it seemed like, even though prices have gone insane on signed tickets now, with what the players are charging, I thought that was reasonable, actually. And,
Oh yeah.
For a player of his caliber, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And to get such a rare item signed, that's really, terrific. So why don't you, everyone likes a little show and tell. You see, we've been talking for 15 minutes and it feels like we've been talking for 3 seconds. So, and I've got so much more to ask you about. So why don't you show a little bit? So I know you've got that Aaron collection there of signed tickets. So let's see them, my friend.
Yeah, so I've even got the camera set up here. So, we're going to give you the, give you the good show. So that's the Hank Aaron debut.
And Connor, what's the pop report on signed Aaron debuts?
I believe that's one. I know you've seen the full that Eric has, but yep.
So you may have the only signed stub.
That I'm aware of. Yep. So
Wow.
here's his first hit. This is a pop 2. I have both of them.
Wow. Holy moly.
Here's his 500th home run.
Jeez.
Here's his 600th home run.
Oh my God.
Here's 700. This is 755 home run inscribed 755.
Oh my God.
So these are all pop one. The 500, 600, 700, 755 is pop one. There's two last hits. This one's inscribed 3771 last hit, and this is pop two. I have both of them.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, look, we're getting wows out of Sean Dart. You know, that's one of the biggest ticket collect. Tom Daly. I mean, you're wowing them. I'm blown away.
I could not find his first home run, so we could talk about this. I've never seen a Hank Aaron first home run ticket. I know it exists because there's tickets near it that exist. So I'm like, the odds are it exists. I just have never seen one. So this was a pass. This was the best I could do, which is it's an Arizona Cardinals pass. I had him sign it. So the date would be 4/23/1954, and it would be St. Louis Cardinals. But this was as good as I could do. And then
Connor, what made you get the inscriptions too? Like, what was your thought? I mean, how did you think to do that?
So funny enough, he only would inscribe a few things, and I know there's other tickets that have things inscribed that are not this, but he was doing 3771 and he was doing 755. So I said, okay, that's what those tickets represent. So I'll get those on those tickets.
What's this one?
810 714 home run.
Oh my gosh. And that's a full wow.
And that's a full. And then here's my two 715s. So that's a full. And then here's a 714, which is as close to a full as you can get.
Someone ask Connor who taught him how to use eBay at 8 years old. Ha ha. Some Connor Shapiro fans are on.
That might be my mother.
Well, good for her. She taught you well, because those are some amazing tickets, Connor.
So, and then I left this one for last, even though it's out of order. So Hank Aaron passes away January 2021, right?
Right.
And there was one ticket, right, because I wanted all those numerical milestones. Which one was I missing? I was missing the 3,000 hit. And I was like, man, now I'm never going to complete it. And somebody you've had on the show had the ticket, and it was the most expensive purchase I've ever made at the time. And so here's the 3,000 hit signed. It is a pop 2 now. It was pop 1 when I purchased it, but, frankly, doesn't matter that much.
Unbelievable. Connor, I have to tell you, seeing that like that might be one of the most impressive displays of tickets I've ever seen. So kudos to you.
I really appreciate it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm being honest with you, Connor. I've seen some amazing collections of tickets. I've seen a lot of Eric Zitter's stuff, and look, Eric's got amazing tickets. I have seen, Jamie Brzezinski stuff. I've seen some of Mike Horn's stuff. I mean, that really, man, I actually feel like I need to take a shot. I mean, damn, we got to toast that. That was just phenomenal. And for you to have, multiples of some of those, because you were able to think ahead and then to get them signed, that's just outrageous. And all of those, but the last one, the 3,000 hit ticket, were all send-ins that you did yourself through Waukesha.
Yep. So I'm up to 29 signed tickets for Hank Aaron. And even if you go to what do we got here? So here's a full World Series 1957 Game 4. This is 1957 Game 3. Right, so this was versus the Yankees. So this is the only game where Mantle and Aaron both hit home runs. So this is Mantle home run number 9. This is Hank Aaron World Series home run number 1.
Wow. So you spent some real money on these signings, Connor. I mean, wow.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, $375 a pop, and you've got 27 of them. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at.
So the core was kind of what I showed in the beginning, and then some of the, like World Series and things I've bought along the way. But what I actually paid to have signed, might have been those 10 or so.
And
yeah.
then you also sent cards in to get Hank to sign as well.
I didn't actually. I was only doing tickets.
So you bought all of the signed
every
cards.
Every single one of those were bought. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Except for 1954, except for the rookie card I did send.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So one of the tickets that Connor has that, I posted a picture of Connor with it at the National. It still, to me, it just blows me away that you own one. Why don't you show what I'm talking about? Because I can't even give it any justice by talking.
So here's the 57 Jim Brown debut.
Signed.
Signed. Yep.
Pop report, Connor.
I think there's 3. So this was one of the tickets where like the stars aligned. He only did one signing since I ever had an opportunity, and happened to get the ticket and then got it signed like right after. He never did another signing to my knowledge that was like announced.
What was the price for you to send that in to get Jim on?
That one I would have to actually look up, but it was not crazy. It was probably a couple hundred.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you know what year and what time frame that was?
I would have to look it up, but it was around the same. It was probably 2018, 2019, if I had to guess.
What do you think? Give me a couple of values. What do you think that signed debut goes for in a Heritage or a Golden auction, and what do you think that Jim Brown signed debut goes for in those auctions?
It's so hard to come up with a value. The Jim Brown, I've been saying 30 to 40,000. The Hank Aaron, I saw what did it end or because there was a debut recently? Was it 20?
It just ended this weekend. It was like 20,000 with the buy premium.
So, signed. Who knows? I remember the Lou Gehrig piece when it went from 25 to 95 when it was signed. Is that one 75 signed? I don't know.
Oh, I think 75 for an Aaron debut signed. I think that's with only knowing that there's a couple of others out there. Yeah, it might very well be that kind of value.
When you look at there's no Mantle debut. There's no there's not really other debuts that are signed from that era. They basically don't exist. So, to have like an Aaron on a debut, yeah.
Show us the couple of Mantle tickets that you have signed and the Koufaxes, and then I want to ask you some questions about what do you see in the way of where the future is for signed tickets.
So here's
let me before you get it. Let me just say this: you don't see a lot of signed Mantle tickets. I mean, Mantle signed a lot of stuff, but not a lot of tickets.
No. So both Mantle days, 1965, 1969. The 1969 was where he retired his jersey, number 7. They're not easy to find.
Those are spectacular. Those are great.
Personally, for me, those signatures are 10 out of 10, even though they're 9s, basically.
Yeah. I mean, they look perfect.
Yeah. And then, so I did cave and I paid the insane fee for one of the Koufaxes, but it was lower than it is now. But here's his first no-hitter, and then here's perfect game signed by Vin Scully and Koufax.
Oh my goodness! Did you buy it signed already, or
I bought that one already signed? Yeah.
That's a great purchase. I've never seen one of those signed by Scully too.
And then even this one being with the Sharpie blue, I'm like, those are Dodger colors. So as somebody who's a Dodger fan, that's about as good as you get on a first no hitter.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. I could look at your tickets all day. I mean, that stuff is just phenomenal stuff. I know that you told me that your favorite kind of ticket moment and your ticket experience was the National last year.
For sure.
And are you going back this year?
Hotels booked, flights booked.
All right.
And I'm walking distance to the venue there.
So last year at the National, I know you had a big pickup. You picked up, was it Stan Musial's final game that was signed?
Yep.
And it was a full, right?
Yep.
So why don't you, I'm sorry about the camera
No.
thing, but why don't you show everybody off to show that one to everybody too?
Nope.
Because
So that was a 710. So I see it in the case. I'm like, man, for a 60-year-old ticket, that looks pretty damn good. And these are out there. It's not, it's not too crazy, but I was like, that's an awesome ticket,
yeah. Oh, it is. I remember you showing it to me at the National and me being like, wow, how did you find this? I walked around all the tables too.
Yeah.
And you got a great score there, a great find. That was a great one. So let me ask you, Connor, I mean, where do you think this market goes? We've seen signed cards, signed vintage cards, like take off. The only thing I would say that might be even more collectible than what you have, and because tickets are just so difficult to find, would be if people had, and I guess the Lou Gehrig is one of them. It's not just a signed ticket, but it's a playing days autograph on that
Yep.
ticket.
Yep.
We've seen playing days autographs on vintage cards like 100x, maybe 1,000x, and they're still going crazy. People are getting, finding these Mantle signed cards and Hank Aaron signed cards, Mays
Yep.
signed cards. Where do you think, because a lot of these are not out there, if we look ahead 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, where are these signed tickets? What's their value?
It's whatever somebody's going to be willing to pay, because I just don't think the supply is going to go up that much on the vintage, on the ones that are signed that are hard enough to find unsigned. I just don't see the pop going up, so it's a matter of demand at that point.
Yeah, and like I say, the ones you have are the best names of their best milestones, and everyone is going to want that stuff, no matter if you're a ticket collector or not. I mean, I know 20 memorabilia collectors that collect memorabilia that don't really, they dabble a little bit in tickets. If I would have shown them what you just showed me, they would be like, what's the price? I want them. I want that collection. I need that immediately. And, you tell them the prices, I think they probably would pay them because that's just so impressive. It really is.
Yeah.
You also,
I mean, frankly, the Hank Aaron stuff, I would sell just about everything else before I would sell that.
yeah, I can understand why. It's so complete. It's so perfect. Your son deserves to inherit that collection and be able to potentially even build on it. You also collect, I think you told me, Ryan no-hitters, and you also have, is it a Mays first home run ticket?
I do. So here's the Mays first home run, which I think that's a pop 4.
Great ticket. Great ticket.
Here's a couple funny sign ones. So this is a Bob Feller second no-hitter, which is pretty rare on its own. And then it's signed by Joe DiMaggio. And if you notice, it says Reggie Jackson, because this is a 1946 ticket, and Reggie Jackson signed it and dated it December 26, 1978. What is he doing on a 1946 Bob Feller no-hitter?
No idea. No clue. Kind of cool.
Day after Christmas.
Yeah.
So this one might be a pipe dream. So this is Babe Bob's out, okay? And I saw this, and I didn't know what the heck this writing was. It says Margie, okay? And I start looking up Margie. Now, granted, I could be way off base here. I have no way to verify this. Babe Ruth's sister's name was Mary Margaret Ruth. Is there any chance that Margie is Margaret?
Maybe.
No idea. No idea. But I'm like, if that was Babe Ruth's sister, personally, it adds value to me, but that's probably a pipe dream.
Yeah.
Nolan Ryan, first no-hitter.
Wow. Did you send that? Did you buy that sign, or did you send that to the foundation?
I bought that unsigned. Yeah,
okay.
And I sent that in, which is a little nerve-wracking. It's an expensive ticket to send in to them.
You've got way more chutzpah than I do, man.
I've had
no way
a good experience with them.
Yeah, they are pretty good.
Here's second no-hitter.
Huh.
There's third no-hitter. There's number 4. Number 5. And then we got 6 and 7 here.
7. Terrific, Connor.
Yeah.
Amazing. Really amazing. So someone's asking here, I think it's your mom. It must be some kind of a story behind it. What's the one ticket you wouldn't sell?
I mean the Hank Aaron's probably. I don't think I could ever sell it.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I can understand why. So you also collect horse racing tickets. You
Yep.
have most of the Derby wins and Triple Crown winners from each of the events. I've heard, that there was a Belmont Secretariat full that you acquired, and then actually, which is a testament to ticket collecting and us ticket collectors. We're always trying to look out for each other, but you knew that the gentleman who sold you yours had a second one, and that another collector, Mike Violi, really desperately wanted it, and you were able to hook him up such that he was able to put one in his collection too.
Yep.
How rare is that full Belmont?
It was funny because I had seen less than 5 in the previous 10 years, and then between the stubs and the fulls, I think 5 came up in the last few months. So I was pretty shocked, right, to see 5 in 10 years and then see 5 in 3 months. But I do think it's a very rare ticket, and I'm not aware of others.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to crop up from time to time, but.
Can I see that one? Do you have that one with you?
Yeah. So I'll even. So that's the full. Which this was like one of the last big horse racing tickets that I was like, I really need to own, and this one's been on my list for a long time, and
huge.
Yep.
That's a huge ticket.
So I'll even give you the rundown. So here's what I think are the 5 best tickets in the entire horse racing category. Okay. Now, granted, in the pandemic, there was a 1937 full Derby that went for $45,000 on Heritage. That's not included here. But number 5, I would say, is Man of War versus Sir Barton. Okay, and that's the highest grade. Very hard to find one this clean. Extremely hard. 1920, right? So you're dealing with a 105-year-old ticket.
Sure.
Number 4, I'd say iconic full 1973 Kentucky Derby for Secretariat. Number 3, I would say, is the Belmont.
Yeah.
Number 4, a little bit controversial, would say is War Admiral versus Seabiscuit. And then personally, because what this one meant when I got it, 1919 Kentucky Derby. This is the first race of the first Triple Crown winner ever. So Sir Barton in 1919 was the first Triple Crown winner. This is the race number 1 of every Triple Crown race that ever happened.
Phenomenal, Connor. Really phenomenal. Wow. Blown away. Literally blown away. I talked to you, and I know you're very passionate about this, and I am too. I kind of asked some questions, and I know that one of your biggest ticket regrets has to do with the 1925 Kentucky Derby. So tell us a little bit about that too.
Yeah. So right now I have 1919 through pretty much current date of Kentucky Derby tickets, but I'm missing 23 and 25. But the worst part is 25 is Pop 2, and I used to own both of them. But I sold them before I ever started building this collection. And, I'll definitely find them eventually. They do come up from time to time, but it's just ironic that I own both of them, and now it's like high on my list.
Funny. It's funny. Kind of bittersweet, but,
it's part of the chase. They're in collections, and
Part of the chase. It kind of leaves you something to still collect, because I got to tell you, man, that collection of yours is just top notch. So good for you. Good for you. Let's run the gauntlet. You've been a pleasure to have on. Even with my bum eye, we're doing okay today. We got to dedicate to Stub Love Live. We're not going to postpone or reschedule. As long as I got my sight, I'm good to go.
Do it.
Let's run the gauntlet. Stub or full?
It's a tough one. I'm gonna go full, even though I love them both. But the idea that somebody missed this incredible game and that there's a full ticket from it, and sometimes the artwork's so beautiful when it's just a full ticket. But man, I love them both.
Okay. PSA, Beckett, or no slab at all?
I'm definitely PSA. Never have even submitted to Beckett, frankly. But I certainly have my my gripes with them over the years.
Yeah, I know you do, but we're all kind of loyal to them because we have to be. Debuts or moments?
So I'm gonna have to say moments, but with the caveat of something other under the umbrella of moments, which is milestone numerical tickets. First, last. I love the numerical ones. Don't know why. It's just kind of how the brain works.
Yeah, you're a numbers guy. You're a spreadsheet guy. So yeah, okay, I understand. A PSA 10 ticket or a PSA Pop 1 ticket?
I gotta go Pop 1.
Yeah, for sure. And you've got some great ones there. Maybe Pop 1s, Pop 2s, and they're phenomenal. I know you're a Yankee fan, so better play, better ticket, Derek Jeter's the dive or Derek Jeter's the flip?
Gotta be the flip.
All right, I like the dive.
It's gotta be the hustle play heard around the world.
Yeah, you see, I like the dive. I mean, the blood, the moment, the hustle. I'm not even a Jeter fan or a Yankee fan, but that was great for me. Would you rather own a signed Mickey Mantle debut, and I know you're a card guy too, or a signed 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle card?
I'd have to go with the Mantle ticket.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that there are any out there. You never know. Mickey signed a lot, probably unlikely, but you never know. Maybe it does surface, and it possibly could. Rather attend live, first leg of a Triple Crown, or like a Kentucky Derby, or you've already done this, last leg of a Triple Crown where someone actually wins it at the Belmont.
Last leg. Got to be there. It's if you ever get the chance, just do it.
All right. Well, if we ever get that chance, I'll fly up there and give it a shot. I've always wanted to go to the Kentucky Derby, but more just to dress up and drink and have fun.
So I will say, the year before I went, and I was disappointed because California Chrome lost in 2014. So I had the disappointment the year before, and then I had the elation the next year.
It's
so
really cool. Good for you. That's great.
Yeah.
Bigger Yankee killer, David Ortiz or Manny Ramirez?
I freaking hate Manny Ramirez.
Hate them both. Most overrated Yankee, and I know Sean Doherty's watching. Derek Jeter, Alex Rodriguez, or someone else?
I gotta hate on A-Rod.
I guess if you're gonna hate on anybody as a Yankee fan,
playoff A-Rod was
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna test your knowledge a little bit here. You're gonna do fine. I'm gonna walk you through it. There are Yankees with monuments in Monument Park. There are also some Yankees that have plaques. A lot of people have plaques, but only a few have monuments. In fact, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can you get me all 6 names of the Yankees that have monuments in Monument Park?
Man, I know some of the retired numbers and stuff. I'm not sure the plaques. So it's got to be Ruth.
You got one.
Mantle.
Got to be Mantle. You got 2.
Jackie Robinson.
Well, Jackie does have something out there, but I'm just talking about the Yanks. So
okay.
Give me another 2 big names, number 4 and number 5.
Lou Gehrig and Joe DiMaggio.
Lou Gehrig, Joe DiMaggio. Now the other 2 you might not get. One is an old manager, and one is an owner that was pretty famous.
I'm thinking Billy Martin, Yogi Berra.
So one is Miller Huggins.
Okay.
So that's one. And then the last one, which I didn't even know. I was shocked when I heard it, but I guess when you own the team for so long, you get a monument. George Steinbrenner.
Okay.
So pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I knew that was going to be tough.
Yeah. No, should have got George.
Not easy. All right, so I have Justin adding things in there too. So let's say this, Connor. Pleasure having you on. What a good guy. I got to meet you live in person at the National last year. Got to talk to you a little bit. Got to meet your friend too. Yep. Thought he was great as well. I'm happy to hear that you're coming out to the National in Chicago this year. I hope everyone comes. Everyone should talk to Connor. You know, he's everything we want in our hobby. Smart, young, a great collector, passionate, follows his heart and soul, and look at what it has given him. So Connor, what an honor to have you on. Thank you so much for taking some time, and you know, thank you to your wife too, with an 18-day baby. You know, man, she's special.
Yeah, really appreciate it, Howard. Appreciate the kind words, and yeah, thanks for having me on, of course. Yeah, it's been a blast.
Episode 48 of Stub Love Live with Connor Shapiro. Ticket Craze on Instagram is done. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk soon.
See ya.
Bye-bye. It's great.